case acceptance doesn't just happen in the room. Case acceptance happens at first substantial contact, the moment that whoever is answering your phone answers the phone. And then when the patient shows up, it continues from handoff to handoff.
This is Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast where we ask the question, what does growth in dentistry look like to you? I'm Katie Polson, a dental hygienist and your host. Welcome to Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast. I'm Katie Polson and just excited to be here, guys. It's the end of December. It's December. Sherrine and I were talking about being done for the holidays. We're excited. We're looking forward to it. So this is coming to you live and in a week from now from recording time. So I got to figure that out in my mind. I'm like, are we in 2023 yet when this comes out or not? But oh man. Well, for those of you that are first time listeners, welcome. So glad to have you listening to the show today. The goal with these kind of shorter episodes, the 30 minutes of actionable advice, so where we tackle a problem. And today we're talking about case acceptance at the end of the year and getting teams ready for 2023. So we've got a great guest who I'll introduce in just a second. But if you haven't had an opportunity to also look at the other episodes on the show, we've got some deep dive episodes that are an hour long where we talk to other team members, other actually practices who are in our top 10% of practices that use our metrics and kind of come up with ways of and listen to their stories of how they've accomplished their success. So those are fun ones to listen to. And then we also have some DSO episodes as well, enterprise episodes. So if you're in a group practice or you want to be one, there's some information there for you as well. So with that being done, if Facebook is something that you're into, come join us there. It's a Facebook Dental Intelligence podcast community. We've got like-minded data nerds, and we come and talk about analytics and automation and all the good things to help your practice. So join us there. And if you aren't a current customer and you want to be one, please go to get.dentalintel.com/podcast, and you can get a $50 gift card when you complete a demo by using that URL, which we'll make sure is in our show notes as well. I think that's it, guys. I think we're going to get started. Sherrine Washington, welcome to the show. She's amazing, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so glad to have you on. We've had her on before. So if you want to check out that previous episode after listening to this one, I highly recommend it. But for those of listeners that haven't heard or don't know who you are, give it a little bit of background about your amazingness.
Yeah, I would love to. So my name is Sherrine Washington. I am a master sales trainer, speaker, and coach, and founder of the Real Talk Selling System. And so I am known in the industry for training treatment coordinators and dentists. And I'll tell you, at this point, I feel like I'm training just about everybody in dental offices to close these days.
Yeah.
But I'm known for training and teaching dentists how to close 5-figure cases on the same day of the consultation, paid in full. And I am super excited to be here.
Yeah. She knows what you're talking about. She knows a lot about case acceptance and getting paid. So no better person to talk about it than her. I'm excited to have her on because as we were talking about in a marketing team, like what do people struggle with, currently right now in this market, and also just kind of with the demographic of being at the end of the year. And case acceptance was one of those things. I think a lot of people come in because they know that they need to use at their end of the benefits, but they're also with the holidays and right now, going into 2023, people are starting to kind of tighten their purse strings a little bit even more. And so getting those larger cases are harder. It could be harder to close, like you said. Well, that's so what you're good at. So let's talk a little bit about what advice, I guess, you have for practices and trying to optimize their end of year benefits and then getting patients to say yes when they're actually in the practice.
Yeah. So right now, I will tell you, in talking to a lot of my clients, because I train dental practices all around the world. And right now, we all know December is a tough month. But this December feels differently. it feels like it's so tough. Things are so slow that it is not feeling like it may turn around very quickly in January. And I always try to be optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
But for any dentist that's listening to this recording right now, I'm going to honestly say, I don't know if things are going to turn around quickly in January. And because there's a lot of unknown, my biggest piece of advice is if you have team members who have not been formally trained to be able to, because case acceptance doesn't just happen in the room. Case acceptance happens at first substantial contact, the moment that whoever is answering your phone answers the phone. And then when the patient shows up, it continues from handoff to handoff. And so for any office right now that is panicking, and there are a lot of offices that are panicking, you've got to put on your agenda for the first of the year that you need to train your team. Because next year and the rest of this year is over. As far as I'm concerned, this year is over, right? But there will be very little room for error when it comes to knowing what to say, how to say it, and when to say it. Now, if there's a dentist that's saying, well, Sherrine, it's Christmas right now and people want to, spend their end of the year benefits, what should I say? Well, first and foremost, I think in dentistry, something went wrong that we feel like we have to try to convince patients to spend their end of the year benefits into making sure that they don't leave anything on the table. But my biggest piece of advice is we need to speak the truth to our patients. Forget about end of the year benefits. Forget about that. We and doctors have to do this. They need to set their treatment coordinators up. We need to give our patients the truth that we would want for ourselves. So when we're presenting different treatment options, we have to stop allowing our patients to do what I call role reversal, where patients actually are telling us what they want to do. Doc, can I wait on this? Mm-hmm. Don't say they can wait, right? And so it really starts with the doctors feeling confident and involving their treatment coordinator in case presentations. My biggest piece of advice for doctors is if you're presenting treatment options to patients, bring in your treatment coordinator into the room. Mm-hmm. Because this is what patients do. They look at the doctor and say, okay, doc, yeah, this sounds good. Treatment coordinator comes into the room and role reversal happens. Yeah. And they then start leading the process. And with Real Talk Selling, the way I train is at all times, we should be leading the patient respectfully, no pressure, nothing salesy. I have a master's degree in counseling. So Real Talk Selling literally feels like a therapy session. We're allowing patients to speak. And when doctors are presenting treatment options, we need to listen for the things that are not being said by our patients and not try to sell the most expensive. Listen to what patients are saying. And even if it means that we have to stage their treatment, the key is to get them moving forward in the first place. And we cannot be afraid to give patients the truth and to let them know, like, you need to do this crown, you need to do this bridge. And here's what will happen if you don't do it. I think doctors leave that out.
Yeah.
Here's what will happen if you don't do it. Mm-hmm. And here's why I'm recommending that you do this and that you do it now.
Mm-hmm. So many good little nuggets in there. I want to pull out. I love that you say that it starts from the very beginning and through each handoff, because I totally see that. And when we've done these deep dive episodes that I refer to at the beginning of the show, the practices that have, amazing case acceptance, treatment acceptance, patient acceptance, all the way down to same day, they all view case acceptance as an entire team thing, right? It's not just on the doctor. And as a hygienist, I see that all the time. I've seen, oh yeah, sure, we'll do that. And then as soon as the doctor leaves, they're like, oh, well, what do I really need to get that done? Or, what?
Yeah. And then sometimes the doctors come back in and they're like, well, yeah, you could wait. So we're not really helping. We're not helping the situation by letting patients off the hook. We don't need to be afraid.
Yeah. regardless of what time of year it is, right? Whether
It
we're
doesn't
in,
matter.
yeah,
It doesn't matter,
yeah,
So forget about it's the end of the year. Forget about people want to, they're holding on to their money in their purse because of the holidays. Patients will spend money on what they want to spend money on 365 days a year. They will.
yeah. And do you have advice for those practices that are having a hard time creating value, I guess, in their services for the patient? I think sometimes that's kind of where things get left off a little bit, is creating enough value so that the patient would rather spend money on their mouth than buying whatever, doing their nails that month or whatever it is,
Yeah, no, I love this question. So there's two things. One of the things that I do when I train in office, the very first thing that I do is I help my offices implement a discovery process that starts at the front. And I always use the analogy of attorneys. Attorneys are experts at doing discovery
Mm,
before they go on trial. They do their due diligence and they research everything they can about the case. They interview witnesses, they dig deep, they go back to the scene of the crime. They gather all the information that they need to be able to go on trial and to be able to win the case to the best of their ability. And in dentistry, we need to do the same thing. And so by implementing discovery, which is it's just a simple one-page document that I give to my clients. And this document has questions that every new patient has to fill out. And by these patients answering these questions, there's two things that can happen. Number one, I'm certified as a DISC
mm,
behavioral style facilitator. So we need to be able to understand the personality of every patient that walks through your door. And we need to be able to speak that patient's love language. We got to be able to sell to all different personalities, which is very different. And so building value starts with understanding what's important to the patient, what's in their mind, what makes them tick, what are their
mm,
hot buttons, what are their pain points. So implementing discovery will help you to speak your patient's love language. But the other thing that offices need to do is if I ask a doctor, why should I choose you? Most doctors, unfortunately, they don't know what to say. They don't know how to answer that. Or they say, they may say a few things, what I call unique selling propositions. But at the end, I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, so what? Every office should, and each employee in your office should be able to have 3 to 4 unique selling propositions at the top of their head that they can reach to at the drop of a hat. That if a patient says, why should I choose you? Why should I pay more for this crown here than somewhere else? Why should I pay outside of my insurance and pay you out of pocket? You got to be able to have unique selling propositions that keeps you above your competitors. And if you don't know who your competitors are, then you need to find out who they are. And then I teach my practices how to secret shop their competitors. Now we get to
mm.
figure out why am I losing business to these other people? That's where being able to build value starts from, knowing who's around you and raising the bar and being able to outsell them.
Mm. And I would imagine even if a patient doesn't even ask those questions of why should I choose you, knowing the value that you provide and believing in that, and every single team member believing that, just that probably comes across in every conversation that they have.
Oh my God, Katie, I'm so happy you said that because those unique selling propositions, oh, you said something so good. I mean, seriously, these unique selling propositions, whoever answers the phone, they shouldn't have to ask us. We should be able to weave those into our conversations. So if a front office coordinator answers the phone, thank you for calling Washington Dentistry. This is Sherrine speaking. How may I help you? And your front office coordinator is engaging with this patient, and the patient says, what? Oh, you're not in network? Oh, never mind. You know what? I'm going to hang up. I'm going to call and find someone else. That person over the phone should be skilled and be able to have sophisticated conversation to say, well, excuse me, 1 minute, moment, ma'am. I know that we're not in network, but I'd like to take a few moments to share with you why so many patients, just like yourself, who are not in network still decide to choose us. And I'd like to share with you why. Here's why. This, 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 and this. Most front office coordinators can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
right? They
Yeah.
just say, oh, okay. Well, if you can't find anybody, call us back. So that's why I got excited when you said what you said. We've got to be able to reveal what's valuable about our offices, even if we're not asked.
Yeah. And
You know?
I come at it from a clinical perspective, just being as a hygienist. I think about as a doctor, even before a doctor comes in the room to diagnose, right? I already have a pretty good idea of what's going to be diagnosed. And then
Mm-hmm.
as soon as they leave the room, then they turn to me and like are looking for the confirmation, right? And if I don't have those unique, value propositions in my back pocket or believe in them even to and believe that I believe in the doctor that provides the best care. I believe in the fact that our practice is the best practice that you can go to, whatever they are. That comes across in the way that I talk to the patient. I
Mm-hmm.
had this experience. We had hired an associate doctor at my family practice, and I struggled with his diagnosing, and I didn't believe in like him. I believed in the practice, but I didn't believe in him. And when I looked at my metrics in my team case acceptance percentage in dental intelligence in our analytics platform, it was like way lower than with every other doctor. And it was a big wake up call for me to think, okay, we need to get on the same page because it's not only affecting, production in the practice and ultimately, the ability for this doctor to do the work that he wants to do and needs to do, but it's affecting the patients. So I love that really struck a chord to me because I had to relearn that. Even like I had to learn like trust and value in the doctor's skills as well as the practice. So
But
it's
you
really
bring
good.
up another good point, Katie, that's making me excited. I train treatment coordinators all the time. And I discover that part of their challenge in being able to close treatment is they don't believe in it. They don't believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not educated on the treatment itself. They are not able to confidently explain why the treatment costs, what it costs. All that is value.
Yes.
And it's just like
Yeah.
what you said. If patients are savvy, if you are not confident, and I teach treatment coordinators how to present fees without paper in hand, no treatment plan. We're not showing treatment plans. It complicates things, it causes cognitive overload, and patients need to be confident. These treatment coordinators need to be confident to say numbers off the top of their head. They can still have the treatment plan handy, but they need to be looking at patients in the eyes.
Mm.
All that translates into whether or not you can close that case. And so a lot of times we have to go back to basics. And I have to sit with the treatment coordinator and ask and say, let me ask you a question. Do you believe in the doctor? Do you know the doctor's credentials? Do you know where he went to school? Do you know how many cases he's done? And they're like, no, no, no. Okay, well, how are you going to close a case?
Yeah. You got to believe in
Yeah.
the work that is being done and the value of it, right? Like you got to know why, why an onlay would be a better choice than a full crown in this scenario. Like you have to know those things. Yeah.
And you have to remove your inner thoughts and
Yeah.
your beliefs out of the equation. Because a lot of treatment coordinators will say to me, well, Sherrine, I can't afford it. That person's my age. So
Mm-hmm.
if I can't afford it, they can't afford it. Like, why? So there's a lot of internal work, that sometimes has to be done. And when I train offices, it's really, I say it's a very holistic approach because I got to uncover all this stuff. I got to figure out why we're not closing first. And then once I figure that out, then I start training sort of from bottom up.
Mm. Yeah. Well, you've had so much experience, not only like with case acceptance, helping teams with case acceptance, but just you've been in so many offices and the dynamics of teams. I'm interested to know. I mean, as we are approaching, we're approaching 2023, we're in 2023. Um, I've talked about this before with a lot of other guests in the past couple of months. Is this shift of like team and culture in dentistry since the pandemic and people are struggling with holding on to their team members is big. I think a lot of practices are switching their minds of how can I make the lives of my team members easier? What can we automate? What can we systematize? And how can we make a better environment for the employees and not just the back end of production and that bit of it. So what advice, I guess, do you have as practices are preparing to plan for 2023 and figuring out what they can do differently in managing their teams
Yeah.
in the way that they appreciate them or get them to stay on?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, if I was a practice owner and if you're going to close for the holidays and open back up, I would have a team meeting with everyone, all the members of the team. And I would talk about the state of the unknown for 2023, because there is a lot of unknown. And I would have a very transparent conversation in saying, look, I need an all hands on deck approach going into this year. It can't be the clinical against the front. You know, there's a lot of the back against the front.
Yeah.
That's my job. I don't do that. Go see this person, right? Like, this is an all hands on deck approach. And I'll tell you, for me, 2023, when I go into offices, I'm going to train just about everybody to close cases. I have to now. If you had asked me probably even 9 months ago, should you have one dedicated person closing cases, I would have probably said yes. But now, when I go on site, I'm training my treatment coordinators, but I'm training office managers as a backup to be able to jump into rotation. I'm training front office coordinators how to pre-screen and pre-qualify and do a real smooth handoff to the treatment coordinator. I'm also training the doctors. If I have a doctor who is pretty savvy, I mean, I've seen a lot of doctors that I listen to them and I'm like, you know what, doc, what are your thoughts about presenting the fee? You feel comfortable doing it? Real likable, you know?
Yeah.
Like that swag and they're very charismatic. I want to see more doctors in 2023. I want to train more doctors in 2023 to be able to quote fees and then do the handoff, teach them the proper verbiage when they're handing it off to the treatment coordinator to be real smooth. So we're almost getting that commitment. So the doctor's not walking off and then leaving the treatment coordinator kind of, you know, leaving them hanging, which unfortunately happens.
Yeah.
I think everyone has to be involved in closing cases next year. And that will help to position the practice for greatness. If someone leaves, the train can keep moving, right? We don't have this like whole panic. The other thing is, if it's slow going into next year, which I think it's going to take a little bit longer for offices to bounce back after the holidays. Typically, around like that second, third week in January, we start to see like people are out of holiday mode and things start picking up again. I don't know if that's going to happen next year, but I think doctors right now, they need to really go to their old list of potential prospects, and we need to start hitting the phones, and we need to get creative, and we need to get creative with our treatment plans. We need to invite patients back in for complimentary second consultations or dental update visits. And we need to be creative. I sometimes teach my practices how to talk patients out of the most expensive treatment. I know most people aren't used to that. How to talk patients out of the most expensive treatment, because I heard from that patient, they're going through a divorce, they have limited means. So the light goes off. And now we got to be real savvy, because I still want this patient to move forward, but I don't have to sell them the most expensive. So we want to be creative next year.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea of cross training everyone in the practice. I think a lot of people that is their solution for the struggles that they're finding, is making sure that a lot of their dedicated team members can do multiple jobs. And I think that empowers them as well, and it makes them feel like they're a true part of the team and encourages them to learn and grow. And maybe they find that they like to present case, except maybe they like to present fees, you know, maybe that's where they want to live, you know, maybe they'll find that they want to do that. Yeah.
I love that you're saying that, because I find that some folks, they do like, they like the idea of being engaged in presenting fees, but they're afraid because they haven't been trained.
Mm-hmm.
They also fear the word sales, which from the perspective of real talk selling, it feels, I always tell my doctors, it feels good from the soul, because it should never feel like someone's being pressured. It should feel like a collaboration. When you're presenting treatment, it should be like, okay, this person trusts me, this patient in front of me, they know I'm here for a reason. And this person sitting across from me in this consultation room is my advocate. This person is going to put pen to paper. They're going to do everything that they can to help me because I know I need to get this done.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it should feel. It doesn't need to feel scary. So, doctors listening to this, go back to your offices and ask your team, are you all afraid of sales? I wouldn't be surprised. Most people, they raise their hand. Yep, I'm
Yeah.
afraid, but you need to be afraid,
Or they don't
especially.
even want that word in their practice, right? Like the idea of selling in dentistry is it has such a negative connotation, which is interesting because that's really, I mean, what we're doing. Yeah. Yeah.
All about changing lives, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I love it. Well, Sherrine, there's so much that could be learned from you. I'm so grateful that you had just joined us. You have, if people want to get a hold of you, or also let's direct them to, Sherrine had this amazing YouTube music video that you guys need to check out if you haven't seen it. It's fantastic. We'll make sure we link that as well. But tell them how they can get a hold of you.
So there's a couple ways. You can always email me, Sherrine Washington, at info@realtalkselling.com, info@REAL talkselling.com. My website is also realtalkselling.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. For the most part, I'm on Instagram, but certainly more active on LinkedIn. And the first step in the process is to schedule a complimentary 20-minute strategy session so I can just kind of hear what's going on. And it's valuable even if a doctor chooses not to move forward. But that would be the first step, is to really see what the challenges are, your goals, what you want to do, and see how I can best help that dentist make it happen for them.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'll make sure that those links are in our show notes. And so if people are driving, which hopefully maybe you're driving to work, we'll make sure that you can find her if you need to. So thank you again. Thank you for taking your time out of this very busy season
Thank you for
and the
having
week.
me.
Oh, so good. This has been Growth in Dentistry and Dental Intelligence Podcast. Thank you to our marketing department as well for their work on this show. I'm Katie Polson. Keep growing.